Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos. I am the Reverend John Cullinan, your minister here. I want to extend a special greeting today for Mother's Day to all of our mothers by birth and by choice. We celebrate you this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all people and gather together in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are in your life's journey, wherever you are right now at this moment, here or at home, you are welcome to be a part of this community. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors or first-time guests we have here this morning. I'd love to have you come join us for coffee and conversation in the fellowship hall with the rest of us. I'd love to meet you and answer any questions you might have about our community here. And now, take a deep breath. Feel yourself centered as we prepare for worship. Each week, I invite us to worship together on this beautiful morning. Each week, that morning may or may not seem beautiful to your eyes or your spirit, but I assure you it is beautiful nonetheless. We look at skies hazed with the smoke from the fires that surround us. We fret over each development, worry about what's coming for us and our families, worry for the lives of our community here and across the state. And still, this morning is beautiful. The poor and the miserly of spirit press on with narrow dreams of a country wrestled into the shape of false idols, carving away at the rights to life and liberty, especially for those deemed outside the circle. And still, this morning is beautiful. Beautiful because it is ours to claim. Beautiful because we gather in one another's presence. Beautiful because we breathe and struggle and rejoice together. Beautiful because we worship together. We shape the worth of our world, carve out the beauty that still reaches out through the ugliness, name our values and return to them time and time again. Because when the world is on fire, when we are surrounded by threats to life and to love and to spirit, we respond as people of faith have done for centuries. We put on our vestments, put on our Sunday best, put on our getting down to business clothes, and gather to remind ourselves of who we are and what we value, and how we are called to widen the circle, to build a community of ultimate care and concern, to match our great joy to the world's deep needs, to worship. And so we begin. Come, let us worship together on this beautiful morning. Please rise in body or spirit and join in our opening hymn, number 40. Please remain standing for our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each and with all. Please be seated. This morning is a bit of a different service. This is what I call my question box service. You'll notice you have a couple of index cards at your seats. You may have a pencil available to you there. We have some extras here if you need it, but here is how it works. I will answer as many of your questions as I can over about a 15 to 20 minute span as you write them down. I'm going to collect them just towards the end of our time for all ages and get them gathered together while we play our anthem, and then I will just go on to answering questions. So take a minute and think about the question you may want to ask, and I will come around and grab those just a little later. Candles have been lit this morning in gratitude for Renae, Tina, Kelly, and Christine for organizing the women's retreat and for everyone who shared themselves. A candle for the fear and stress and sadness caused by the fires burning in New Mexico, and a candle in memory of George Rose, the father of Evan Rose. Evan's father passed on Wednesday the 27th. The family will be heading out soon for a memorial service and to take care of affairs. I ask for your prayers and your kind thoughts for the Rose Orth family at this time. For all our joys, all our sorrows, whether we share them with one another or we hold them in the tender silence of our hearts, let us be together in a moment of silence. Please join with me now in a spirit of prayer and reflection. Eternal and beloved, gracious source of all life and all love, we come together this morning grateful for this time out of time, which we have set apart, so that we might become more fully present to ourselves, to each other, to our communities, to that which we call holy. May our joys be celebrated together, our wounds be healed together, our hearts be opened together. This morning we celebrate Mother's Day, a joyful occasion for some, one fraught with other emotions for many others. This morning I share these Beatitudes for motherhood from Janet H. Bowering. Blessed is the person who feeds and warms, washes and comforts a child and soothes them in illness, for they shall be called caregiver. Blessed is the person who gives shelter and food, clothing and toys, books and tools, for they shall be called provider. Blessed is the person who opens doors in the child's experience, who explains the puzzling and wonders at the mysterious, for they shall be called teacher. Blessed is the person who shields a child from that which will wither or warp, who protects a child from abuse and exploitation, who guards against bullying and scorn, for they shall be called defender. Blessed is the person who takes the time to listen, who is there for a child in the darkness, who is aware of the fears, who speaks the words of encouragement in moments of despair, for they shall be called sustainer. Blessed is the person who guides a child in the search for beauty, who encourages them at what is daunting, who steadies them as they explore new experiences, who fires their aspirations and their dreams, for they shall be called inspirer. Blessed are all those persons who help bring an infant along the many paths to maturity, for in them is the future well-being of humanity. All this we pray in the names of those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Amen. Please remain seated for our meditation hymn, number 15. This is your 3 or 4 minute warning for your questions too.
Oh yeah. Oh, now it's on. Okay, so I invite young or young at heart. If you guys want to come up, Carter and Sierra, you guys are welcome. Or any young at heart folks can come up too. Oh, and Carter has a question. Here you go. Awesome. So he'll answer that in a bit. So this morning is Mother's Day, right? Today's Mother's Day. And this is Time for All Ages, written by Barbara Child, who is a retired UU minister. And it is honoring those who have mothered us and honoring the mothering we have done. So, this is written by Barbara Child. I don't know about you, but I'm a bit skittish about holidays that seem to have originated with the greeting card people. That's not true, in fact, of Mother's Day. At least as far back as the 18th century in England, for instance, people celebrated what they called Mothering Sunday, taking a particular kind of cake, a gingerbread man, to their mothers and seeking their blessing. Still today, Hallmark and Company have a way of imposing on us whole constellations of feeling that may or may not relate to our own experience and the feelings that flow from them. Some of us greet this day with great joy, as a time to honor our mother, who is at our side, or at least no further away than a telephone call. Some of us have lost our mother long enough ago that the grief has been transformed into the quiet joy of memories that warm our aging hearts. But some of us encounter this day with more sorrow than joy. Some have so newly lost their mothers that the wounds are still raw. Some know they are on the brink of loss. And for some, this day produces unsought reminders of the mothering that for them never was. Their relationship with their mother having been severed in anger or wrung out through years of painful, torturing disagreements and misunderstandings. Some of us know little or even nothing of our birth mother, having grown up with another's care. So, when the Hallmark people shout into the deepest recesses of our willing or unwilling ears that now is the time to honor our mother, it is no wonder that we don't all respond in the same way. Yet, we have all been mothered by someone sometime. Yes, of course, perhaps by the woman who brought us forth into the world, but perhaps what we remember of our mothering was by another, by a grandparent or aunt or uncle, perhaps. Yes, men can mother too, can love and give and teach by modeling how to be in this world, can lift us up when we are beaten down, can hold us when some monster threatens, can wash our bloodied knees and spirits. Maybe the mothering that comes to mind this morning was by a teacher or a friend. I invite you have these pieces of paper on your seat, right, that for the question box and for this. So I invite you to take your paper and your pencil and write the name of someone who has mothered you. So if you want, you can take some time and you can write someone who has mothered you, or just think their name in your head. And now, honoring the mothering we have done. Mother's Day calls up powerful feelings in us also because of the vastly different experiences we have had as mothers ourselves, or as not being mothers. Some of us are happy mothers on this day with our children at our side, or calling to send us their love and good wishes. Some of us, of any and all gender identities, have never birthed a child. Some of us have never even once been pregnant, though we have longed to be. Some have miscarried in spite of all our best efforts to give birth. And for some, Mother's Day calls back to the front of the brain memories of letting go, of children who have died or long before their time, or of our children adopted by others or taken away from us by others in or out of court, or our children estranged from us for reasons we may never fully understand. Yet, just as we have all, sometime by someone, have been mothered, so have we all mothered our own children or those of another, even if we have never birthed a baby. We have all birthed perhaps a book or a painting, a garden or a song. Somewhere, sometime, we have all sown seeds of gladness. So also, I invite you to take your paper if you want, and a pencil, and write the name of someone or something you have mothered. You can take some time or think about that in your head. So, what we've done this morning, right here, is a rite of passage. We have looked back on our lives and paid attention to the mothering in them. The mothering we have received and the mothering we have given. In so doing, we cast our lot with the human family, past, present, and future. With spirits joined, we touch the earth and reach the sky. So may it ever be so. Happy Mother's Day, all.
Thank 'Cause
There's a lot of deep questioning going on here. I will give you the warning subtitle that says, I will be answering these after 6 hours of sleep and a 16-hour travel day, so I may say some things. I don't know. We'll see what comes out of my mouth. Someone asks, when you say we are called to worship, what or who are you worshiping? What does worship mean? I hinted at this a little bit in this morning's call to worship, actually. Worship, to get all seminary on you, is derived from an Old English word meaning worth shaping, giving shape to what we find of value in the world. Now, for some cultures, that thing of ultimate value was God, goddess, divine spirit, whatever have you. And so when they worshiped, they were giving shape to the thing they were trying to relate to at that time. But the things we find of ultimate value are not necessarily limited to some sort of divine spirit. It could be the ethos of the community. It could be the vision for the world we wish to live in and are trying to create. It could be just our simple values system. And so when we gather for worship on a Sunday morning, what we are doing collectively is returning to that sense of what is of ultimate value to the community as a whole, and individually taking time out of time to reconnect with whatever the source of that ultimate value in the world is to you. And that's worship. It's not a groveling on the ground, or it doesn't have to be. It's not singing out praises to the divine or the universe, although it can be. It's not deep contemplative silent prayer, although it can be. It's a mix of all these things. It's whatever brings you and us back into focus, strengthening us for the week to come with what we find is ultimately necessary in the cosmos. Following up, I like the sentiment in this morning's reading, still this morning is beautiful. How do we retain faith and hope when so many areas are in trouble? How do we keep boundaries and sanity and still pitch in to make positive change? I'm going to pick up another one here because we have a few related things. I just need to find it again. In a world where things are looking bleak on multiple fronts, what do you think is the most impactful thing we can do? And these tie together. It is sanity challenging to live in the world today, isn't it? I don't know how many of you have fallen into the practice, especially over the years of the pandemic, of doom scrolling. I've taken it so far, I don't even see what's on the screen anymore. It's just like a zombified, hypnotized, waiting for something pleasant to pop up in front of me, looking for the hope in the world. But everything can be too everything. That's been Jess and my just kind of way of expressing how things have been going, especially of late. Everything is to everything, and we feel the weight of it. So how do we maintain our sanity and our boundaries, and what do we do? And I'm so happy the questioner brought up boundaries, because that's such an important part of the whole process. Some of you have heard me say this before. Some of you have heard me say this multiple times. Think globally, act locally has been on so many bumper stickers, we tend to ignore it now. And yet, it's probably the deepest truth about how we relate to the world today and how we can feel like we still have a part to play in everything, which is pay attention to what's happening in the world around us, but admit, and this is part of worship too, our smallness in the sense of it all, our finiteness in the sense of it all. Acknowledge that our own personal power only extends so far into the community. And do what you can to impact within that sphere. Even if it's just your ring of closest friends and intimates, because even in that group, there may be 60 different opinions and ways of looking at the world. Somebody may be needing to be called back into deeper community. You have a voice there in that relationship to build the community out again. Just that one single step. Be in relationship with the people in your sphere of concern. In the end, it's all about relationship. It's about coming back together even across the chasms we may disagree across, and hope that we're offering a bridge or a hand over to a loving and open way of building the world. And second, understand that even though we only have so much influence within our own individual sphere of power, understand that we are not alone in this. There's billions of people on this planet, and many of them are bound to have the same sentiments you do, or want to build some piece of the beloved community that falls into sympathy with how we are trying to build it. And we know that today I can take a nap because somebody's still working on it. I can only do so much. I only have so much power. I can only do so much with the power I have. And that's the boundary we need to keep in front of us. I can do this. I can do this. And when people want to call us back into doing more and more and more, because they see us doing stuff and they figure we're into this and we're going to do everything we can, say, I can do this today. And then I need to spend some time with my family. I need to sleep. I need to recharge my batteries. I need to find the beauty that's still in this world to replenish my soul. Don't sink yourself so far into the troubles of the world that you lose yourself. You are important in this whole equation. And just as we are counting on others to run a lap while we take a rest, we need to be ready to run a lap when we are needed as well. Got three here that kind of go together. I love how you all are like in group mind and intersecting with one another. This is great. Somebody asks, how do I hold caring and trying while not burning out, while enjoying my one world and one wild and precious life? Specifically to me, where do I find comfort in times of stress and fear and uncertainty? And how did you find renewal, if you did, through your sabbatical? Has it been sustained as you have returned to the pulpit? I've talked a bit in the past, I think, about going back to the well. I just talked about it just a little bit in that last answer of going back to the beauty of the world that sustains us and feeds our souls. And that boundary I just talked about is extra important to maintain, especially when we're feeling in the thick of everything's. Everything is to everything. How do I hold caring and trying while not burning out? By tending to the things that feed your one wild and precious life. I'm going to give a whole big sermon next week on beauty and how it tries to break through to us at the moments that we need us. And for me, it's a matter of taking time out of the day to be consciously paying attention to where that beauty is speaking to me, where it's coming from to rebuild my soul and refill it from day to day. So I find some of my comfort in times of stress and uncertainty through my improvisation practice, because it flexes those different muscles that allow me to keep paying attention and being intentional about seeing where the beauty and the fun and the joy is when I'm feeling overwhelmed by the everything that is to everything. And time to just break apart from my own day. The sitting and thinking time for me is especially important. I have a lovely reading chair in the corner of my home office. I spend much time there, just kind of gathering thoughts, reading up on the world and letting the ideas crash up and against each other to see what comes out of it. And then spending some time writing. Sometimes it's my book. Sometimes it's a flash of a short story that I've just had in the midst of all that studying time, and sometimes it's a long essay that I will never publish anywhere because it's just too harsh and not pastoral enough when I'm feeling things about the world. And that's part of how I found renewal during my sabbatical. And the other piece, I think as I mentioned in my sermon coming back, another piece was being intentional about paying attention to my mental health. Because I'm a guy, and guys can just deal with anything. And that's what I was doing for years. I'm fine. No, it's normal to just be angry all the time at everything. Yeah, that's just how dudes operate. That's just how we deal with our feelings. Crash. Gaining the strength to say out loud to somebody, I am not okay, was huge. Making that first reach out to somebody professional to talk to was huge. Starting on the meds were huge. I'm going to say they are wonderful. They are miraculous. Do not hesitate, if you can, to find someone to find the right one for you, because now all of my worries, when I start falling into my doom spirals and the doom scrolling, I can kind of stand back from. Look at this little interesting figure of this thing that's bigger than it really is and worse than or not as bad as I think it is, and just kind of put it up on a shelf for the moment and say, you're fascinating. We'll figure that out a little later when I'm not, busy functioning in the world. And the other part of that renewal for me was finding ways to create a practice that is sustainable from day to day, or as much of day to day as possible. So having those moments to just sit and be with myself, taking the time to say, these are the times that I do my improvisation practice, and they're important, and I don't cross plan anything against that as much as possible, so that I'm doing those exercises and being in that moment and saying, this hour is for writing. Could be a page, could be a paragraph, could be 5 pages. Something goes onto paper. So I'm translating the thinking into verbiage. That's how I get that all together. So how do you enjoy your one wild and precious life when everything is to everything? You hold that boundary as best as you can. You take the time to replenish yourself because, again, we need you, but we don't need you depleted. We don't want to see that. You are important to this moment, and how you are in this moment is important to us. Somebody asks, is there a Pokemon room? I see a suspect over here. Okay. Once upon a time, I think this location was a Pokemon gym when Go first came out. It still is? It still is. All right. Yes, there's a Pokemon room here. You got to find it in virtual reality on your phone, but they're not paying us rent. I don't know how I feel about that, but man, 20 minutes goes by fast. Here's unbelievably a quick answer. How do I overcome hatred for those who commit genocide? I don't want to sound flip, but the sense of mind that the love in this world is an aggregation and not an individual responsibility means that somebody can do it. Again, even if I don't have the strength at the moment, somebody can step up. I also say, probably a little flippantly, I'm glad God is all forgiving, but because I can't be right now. That might work or not, depending on your own theological outlook. But that's how we deal with that. I don't have the strength to love this right now. And honestly, if I have to choose between the perpetrators and the victims, I'm going to extend my love to the victims because that's where that strength is needed right now. There you go. Who is your favorite Marvel character? This is the hardest question of the morning. So, this is going to be super obscure to many, many people, but my first Marvel love back in 1982, 83, when I started buying comic books on my own, was the Canadian superhero team Alpha Flight and the characters out of that. So look that up if you want to. It was very, very, very niche, but I loved it. I had a couple questions here about what Unitarian Universalism and the Unitarian Universalist Association particularly are doing to reduce greenhouse gas emissions globally and also to make the right to abortion a law nationally in the US or globally. And I cannot speak to specific projects right now. I can say that the Unitarian Universalist Association has for years and still now does maintain offices in Washington, D.C. for advocacy programs such as this. We're one of the co-founders of Religious Coalition for the Right to Choose and have been a vital part of that for decades now. And we have the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee that works on environmental issues around the globe, pouring money and support into communities around the world. And we have made it clear as a faith that our stance is a woman's right to choose is paramount, that bodily autonomy is paramount, and we have made those statements publicly. I think somebody said at least 20 times over the last 40 years we have made some kind of public statement as a religious movement about those things. And so standing out in the world as an example of a religious institution that is not trying to restrict or govern anybody's body, I think is a huge part of changing the community as well. And we have our advocacy people, and because Unitarian Universalism is what it is, a whole lot of individuals, individually and collectively, getting out on the streets and doing the hard work and calling their congregations into join them in that work. And one last question here. I have a few others here that are really good and deserve much deeper sermons. And that's where these will go, is into my pile for the coming year. Somebody said, is it okay, and then crossed out okay and wrote responsible, if I feel like the search for truth will never end and I'll always be reevaluating my beliefs? It is okay and responsible. Yes, absolutely. We are always works in progress. My mother, at the age of 77, says she still doesn't know what she wants to be when she grows up. That's certainly the process I went through, even through my own sabbatical this past year. I spent 15 years of ministry focused on one particularly big project here, and shepherding a religious community through all of that was the focus on my ministry and how I was thinking about what I do and what I believe in. And in the last several years, as I mature and we move into something new, I have to reevaluate again. Why do I do what I do? And what is the call I am feeling calling me to do? And what do I really believe about the world? I will say my personal theology, my God outlook changes from day to day, but does have a pretty solid through line of the universe and all that is in relationship with me and I with it. And I think you've probably heard me give that answer ad nauseum about the great heart at the center of all things. And for me, I've given up on the question of the existence of the divine, and I focus more on the necessity of it, what I need to retain that sense of being in relationship with all that is. And so whether or not the divine exists, I need it to continue doing the work that I do. And what I call it from day to day may change. But there are your answers today. And at some point, I will give deeper things on the shifting definition of masculinity and who is welcome in a UU congregation, even if they don't seem to have beliefs that align with us. And then this question, which somebody gave and said, this is for everybody. And I think we'll end on this note. Who do you love, and who loves you? When you know that, can you extend that love to everyone you meet? That's yours to answer. Thank you all. Just a few announcements before we depart. Next Sunday, May 15th, is our annual business meeting. If you are a voting member of the church, we especially ask you to be here so we can have a quorum. If you cannot, we will be live streaming the event as well, and you may send your ballot in by mail from home during the week that follows. But please join us here as we take care of some of the nitty-gritty of how we do the business of the church. And then the following Sunday, we will celebrate the spirit of the church as we gather for our annual flower communion, and we do it in person again, and we don't do it like a drive-in restaurant. And we share the beauty of our community with one another, and then have a nice tailgating picnic afterwards. So please bring your picnic with you, hang out in the parking lot, socialize with one another afterwards as we end our program year. And now, as we prepare to return to our everyday lives, it is time to give something of the gifts of this community back to the larger community we are part of. It is time for our offering. During the month of May, 100% of all cash and undesignated funds we collect will be given to our friends at Espanola Pathways Shelter in support of their work in the community. The offering will now be accepted. May what you give bring you joy and into deeper relationship with this community. Friends, may life bless us and keep us. May the light of life shine upon us and out from within us and be gracious to us and bring us peace. For this is the day. This is the one wild and precious life we have been given. So let us all find a way to rejoice and be glad in it. Go in peace.